morning, fellow Kenyans, friends of National Taxpayers Association, and the taxpayer of our good country. So today we have come out again to have a conversation with you. And as most times, what makes us come out to have this conversation is things that are happening in our nation that we think and we know are wrong, but we are not taking action as we must. So we want to bring to your attention the fact that it has been 2 years since we elected our parliament. This is both the senators and the members of the National Assembly, our MPs. And we are greatly concerned that in the recent past we have seen the push by them to increase their salaries, to increase their house allowance, and other issues they would want to add for themselves. And this message from the National Assembly and the Senate has also been taken strongly by the members of the county assemblies, and we have seen them pushing for similar house allowance for themselves. This is in spite of the fact that there is a court case between Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the Parliamentary Service Commission on the constitutionality, on the legality of these allowances that these members have conferred on themselves. So we as an organization just been thinking, do all our problems have to find expression and solution within the judicial system, or are there other things that are obviously less costly, less time consuming, because we know how court cases go, and we also, in as much as we respect the court, we know that some of those cases either go right or wrong based on technicalities. So being very worried and also being very cautious that this matter between SRC and PSC can go either way, we also try to explore what are the other alternatives that are open to you and me as taxpayers that we can use to really send a strong message to these employees of ours. And it's very interesting that for us, we've just been looking at what does employment mean. Employment, I think in the strict sense of the word, means that you as an employer are the one who has a conversation with your with your employee on what you remunerate them. But in our case, the members of parliament have really forgotten that we are their employers, and they've gone out of their way to hold us as their employers, where they're making demands that we also can't really afford. So being constrained by this and really looking at how we can send a message for them, we stumbled upon Article 104 of the Constitution that gives you and me power to recall our elected leaders. Remember that Article 1 of the Constitution says that sovereign power belongs to the people, and we can choose to exercise our power, whether directly or indirectly through our elected leaders. But our concern is when these elected leaders abuse the authority that we have donated to them. What is our fallback plan? Are we without recourse as the people who elected them? So this has been something that has occupied our mind, and obviously there is power in sharing and thinking. So we did share with the other partners, like-minded organizations, friends, and we looked at that court decision, and we were shocked to find that indeed the court stated that some sections of the Election Act and the County Government Act were unconstitutional to the extent that they tried to interfere with the rights of citizens to recall their leaders. That is good that the court mentioned that you do not have to wait for a court order for you to recall your leaders, because there are instances where a leader has gone against the Leadership and Integrity Act, a leader has gone against the values that we as Kenyan have said these are our values as a nation. So for those reasons, you as an elected, you as a Kenyan person or a voter must not have to wait for the court to give a decision before you recall your leader. So this position flowing from the court is really to be applauded. However, the problem there is that then the court left it to the National Assembly to then go back and put in place a law that is constitutional, a law that facilitates our enjoyment of Article 104, but not constraining or clawing it back. However, this has not been done by Parliament from 2017, and we are now in 2019. So that is 2 years down the line. Parliament has not found it worth their time to sit down and legislate on this issue. So that means that you and me have a power and have a right constitutionally to recall our leader, but we have no grounds to base that recall, and that's a problem. So we thought it's important to hear the views of Kenyans on this. Do they know that they can recall a leader based on the constitution, but do they also know that there is no law that that our representative have passed that would allow us to enjoy and regulate how this recall is being done. And so for us, that's the conversation we invite you to have, the thinking that we invite you to have, and share your thoughts on how do we actually actualize this. Does it mean that anytime we think our leaders have not done what they ought to do, then we have to go to court? Remember that court itself, if you look at that 2017 decision, the court itself said that there has not been an attempt by any citizen to recall their leaders. So this is an invitation by the court for us to exercise our sovereign right of recall. We have not done it, and so ours is an invitation to have a conversation on how we move this. How do we compel Parliament to pass that legislation? How do we have conversations around this recall? And we've also struggled, and we've looked at other legislation, anything that would support our push to rein in a rogue parliament, our push to rein in leaders who have forgotten that leadership is not an opportunity to rule, but should be an opportunity to serve. So we found the Leadership and Integrity Act that solely places the responsibility of implementation of that Leadership Act on the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So that law states a very interesting thing, that EACC can be able to take up a matter and refer it to the DPP when any officer has gone against the Leadership and Integrity Act. We have had the views of our elected leaders. We have had members of parliament saying that they did not confer on themselves additional salary, but they found money in their accounts. That's very interesting, because how many of us, you and me, have we ever found millions in our account? So when you find millions in your account, what is the right thing for you as a leader to do while you do not live outside our country? You have already had conversations that SRC is mentioning that PSC has given its members a salary that is not, and allowances that should not actually accrue to them. So for us, when we're looking at the Leadership and Integrity Act, we established that any member of parliament who gets a gift, because if you're saying that money came into your account, we assume that that is a gift. So if you find a gift that is monetary, Leadership and Integrity Act says that that gift should be viewed as a donation to the state. And so based on that the elected leaders have not informed or donated this money back, then they have again gone against the Leadership and Integrity Act. And we ask the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to really take this matter up, because it is something that is squarely on them. So what we view right now is that we as citizens, we as people in Kenya must compel Parliament to pass a law that actualizes and operationalizes the right to recall. Secondly, in the interim, is that Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, being the custodian of the Leadership and Integrity Act, must be seen to act very, very swiftly by preferring and recommending that the DCI and DPP prosecute our elected leaders, any member that has received that allowance, knowing very well that we view that as then a monetary gift that goes against what state officers should do. We expect that Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission takes this up and pursues it. Remember that EACC has recently been saying that they have no budget at all to pursue some of these corruption cases. But this is an issue that is very clear-cut, an issue that we can already see people have received money in their bank accounts, contrary to the Leadership and Integrity Act. So what is EACC waiting for? So we must also demonstrate that this wage against corruption is not one-sided. This wage against corruption is not only for the small man, but all of us are equal before the law, because that is what our constitution demands, that non-discrimination in the conduct of public institutions. So that is our call, and we welcome all of you to continue having these conversations. We do have a tweet chat over this same issue, and we welcome your views, thoughts on how do we move this, because we as a people refuse to view ourselves as not empowered. We refuse to accept that we have to take in our elected leaders are throwing our way. Remember that the minimum wage for you and me in Kenya is 13,000 shillings, while these elected leaders are demanding 250,000 as house allowance, in addition to other amounts of money that we give them. So this, for us, we view is perpetuating a country that has a lot of inequality, a country that we do not even have machines. Remember that we're just coming against a month that we lost some of our leaders to the scourge of cancer. We do not have machines to treat our people. Government is not providing sufficient health care to its people, while the same government wants to give and overtax us just to fund the whims of the elected and the political class. We refuse, and we welcome you to push back. Let us not allow ourselves to be walked on. Let us not allow the state public officers to walk on our back and to dance on our back. Let us push back when we can.